this short talk, I would like to take the second step in sharing a reflection on the rapid transformation of the disciples between the times of the Passion and Resurrection of Jesus and Pentecost, the descent of the Holy Spirit. The journey of transformation experienced by the first disciples is similar to the journey of recovery experienced by so many people who follow a 12-step journey of recovery out from the hell of addiction. The second steps of this journey involves the words came to believe. This second step follows on from the recognition and acceptance of total powerlessness in the first step. The disciples move from a sort of enthusiastic but superficial belief in Jesus of Nazareth to a much deeper, more existential belief in the risen Lord after they had abandoned him in their powerlessness at the crucifixion. There are plenty of examples of coming to believe in the Bible. Today I would like just to take 4 short stories to draw out the importance of recognizing and confessing our growth in belief before God and others. The first story concerns Abraham, who with Sarah is considered our ancestor in faith, just as he is so considered by Jews and Muslims. Abraham experienced his most severe trial when God asked him to sacrifice his son Isaac. This story is in Genesis chapter 22, verses 1 to 14. In many ways, this is a frightening story and is easily misunderstood. Abraham has already left home and launched out into the wilderness, trusting in God's providence. When Sarah heard that she was to conceive a son, she laughed at the ridiculous news, as she knew that she was too old to conceive. So her son was called Isaac, or laughter. Isaac is the promise that from Abraham will come a great nation. Now God is asking Abraham to give up everything that he holds dear and true. If Abraham really believes and trusts in God, he must hand Isaac back to God. He must place all his hopes and dreams into God's hands and out of his own hands. He has to renounce control over his life and destiny. Abraham does this humbly and simply. This is why Abraham is the model of complete faith and trust in God. He has come to believe that his future lies in God's hands, not his own. The last words of Abraham in this story are, God provides, which becomes the name of the place on the mountain where the event took place. Abraham has offered God all he has, and God provides Abraham with everything that he has ever needed or hoped for in return. Can we say, like Abraham, that God provides everything that we will ever need? The second Bible story that I would like to reflect on is the story of Ruth. Ruth was not a Hebrew woman. She came from Moab. After her Hebrew husband died, her widowed mother-in-law, Naomi, decided to return to her own people. In those times, widows were defenseless. Even though Naomi encourages Ruth to stay in Moab for a more comfortable life, Ruth refuses. She will not allow Naomi to live or travel alone. Ruth has lost everything and has no security for her future. The only solid thing left to her is her love for an old Hebrew woman, the mother of her dead husband. She tells Naomi very clearly in chapter 1, verses 16 to 17, "Wherever you go, I will go. Wherever you live, I will live. Your people shall be my people, and your God my God. Wherever you die, I will die, and there I will be buried." Ruth has come to believe that her destitute mother-in-law has something precious that she hopes to receive also. By seeing the fruits of goodness, kindness, sobriety, if you like, in another person, Naomi, Ruth hopes to receive these fruits herself, also by following in Naomi's footsteps. If Abraham comes to believe in God by a direct route, Ruth comes to believe by an indirect route, through a person whom she loves and admires. Many addicts come to believe in recovery by seeing recovery in action in other people whom they know and admire. Many people come to believe in God by seeing kindness and grace in action in the lives of believers. The God that we come to believe in can remain vague, like the higher power for those in 12-step programs. But the subjective trust on the part of the person or believer in this higher power is nonetheless total and unreserved. We could ask ourselves the question, is there someone to whom we could speak the words of Ruth, and if so, whom? Wherever you go, I will go. Wherever you live, I will live. The third Bible story about coming to believe that I would like to reflect on is from Mark's Gospel, chapter 9, verses 14 to 25, where Jesus heals the epileptic son of one man. When Jesus challenges the father by saying, "Everything is possible for the one who believes," the man cries out, "Yes, Lord, I do believe, but help my unbelief." This man recognizes his own weakness, frailty, vacillations and doubts, but his first priority is to help his son get well, so he can be honest and humble at the same time. Faith in God or the higher power is always first a relationship. It can never be simply an ideological conviction. So coming to believe is like entering a new relationship. There is always something more to be discovered. The actual act of coming to believe can be a cry of desperation when everything else has failed. It can be a last option for the distressed. The Gospel story shows us that as long as the coming to believe is real, it will work. God or the higher power is waiting to respond to our call. The final Bible story about coming to believe that I would like to reflect on is the story of the calming of the storm in Matthew's Gospel, chapter 8, verses 23 to 27. Here, the disciples are terrified that the boat will sink in the storm, while Jesus sleeps on a pillow. When they wake him up, he admonishes them, "Why are you so frightened, O ye of little faith?" He rebuked the winds and the sea, and all was calm again. It is an amazing truth to discover that the Lord can calm our internal storms and tempests in a matter of moments when we call on him in distress. The 12-step recovery programs encourage members to call each other regularly. These simple calls can help calm the storms. This is perhaps an essential part of the journey of a personal coming to believe. Until we experience in person this calming grace of the Lord's presence inside us, we cannot really come to believe. These 4 short Bible reflections on Abraham, Ruth, the father of the epileptic son, and the calming of the storm show us that a second step on the journey towards inner healing and recovery is to come to believe that God has the power to transform our situation, to come to believe in the resurrection, so to speak. God is simply waiting for our call. He will never force the issue. He needs our willingness and cooperation. While our friends and companions can bring us to the place of encounter with God, they cannot voice our voice. It is like the old proverb that says, "You can bring a horse to water, but you cannot make it drink." We have to make the call. God is waiting patiently to hear that call or cry from the one he has created in love so long ago. The AA people sum up this truth in their slogan, "Without God, you can't, but without you, God won't."